The concept what we are going to discuss today is index numbers. So under this we are going to study about the meaning, methods of constructing index number, uses of index numbers, difficulties faced and construction of index numbers. So all these 4 points together we are going to learn in details. First one is the meaning of index numbers. An index number is a statistical device to measure changes in the value of money. It is a number which represents the average price of a group of commodities at a particular time in relation to the average price of the same group of commodities at another time. So now we have already studied something about index numbers in our 12th or 11th standard in statistics or in economics. So it is a statistical device in order to measure the changes in the value of money. So the value of money what is today was not before and will not be in the future. So the value of money will keep on changing. In order to measure the changes, we use index numbers. So next one, they say that it is a number which represents the average price of a group of commodities at a particular time in relation to the average price of the same group of commodities at another time. So let us take an example of a pen or any stationery item as, let us take an example of book. So the price of a book, the minimum price of the book in 2020 is rupees 60, but let us go 5 years back. A means it is at 2015. So in 2015 the same quantity, the same quality book was rupees 30. So there is 30 rupees increase, means the 30 rupees increase is nothing but the changes of the amount or the price of the same group of commodities, of the same commodities that we took an example of a book. So the changes was 30 rupees. So in 2015 it was 30 and 2020 it is 60 rupees. So these are the changes. How we can measure these changes in order to know the value of money? We use index numbers. So let us go for the definition. The definition given by the Professor Chandler. So what it defines? It defines it thus: an index number of prices is a figure showing the height of average prices at one time relative to their height at some other time that is taken at the base period. So I told the example of a book in 2020 and in 2015. So 2015 will be the base period what we use for comparing with the current period or the present period, that is 2020. So here what he say the same thing, that we got to figure out the prices of one commodity at one time compared to the other commodity in other time, but the commodity will be same. So in order to understand the index number easily, we have 3 steps. So that one, first one is an average figure relates to a single group of commodities, but the various items in the group are expressed in different units. Example, a consumer price index contains such diverse items as food, clothing, fuel and lighting, house rent and miscellaneous things. So what we say, we're gonna take a single group of commodities, means a group of commodities, but they may also have various items in the group. For example, when we want to calculate the consumer price index, so when we want to know the value of money in a group of commodities, that is the consumers commodities, in that we have so many items like food, clothing, fuel, lighting, house rent, miscellaneous things. Miscellaneous means extra things and other things. So we use a single group of commodities to figure. the changes. The second one is an index number measures the net increase or decrease of the average prices for the group under study. For instance, the consumer price index has increased from 150 in 2017 as compared to 100 in 2015. It shows 50% in the prices of commodities included in the index. As I said earlier, I gave an example of a book which is now in the current period it is about 60 rupees, but in 2015 it was 30 rupees. So I told like 30 rupees is increased. That is the changes what we find in the price index. So here they gave an example of 150 rupees in 2017 as compared to 100 rupees in 2015. So 50% has been increased in the prices of commodities. So like this index number help us to find the difference between the comparisons between two prices of the same commodities in two periods. The third one, an index number measures the extent of changes in the value of money or price level over a period of time given a base period. If the base period is the year 2005, we can measure the change in the average price level of the preceding and succeeding years. So here it's nothing but when we take an example of a base period 2005, so we are going to compare the amount of the price of the commodities which had been changed with 2005. So we can go for the preceding and succeeding years. Preceding years are before. We can go with 2001 to 2005, or else we can go with 2005 to 2000. So we can compare anything. The next one is methods of constructing index numbers. So we have lots together of steps in order to construct an index numbers. So the first one is purpose of index number. Before constructing an index number, it should be decided the purpose that cannot be used for others. A cost of living index of working classes cannot be used for farmers because the items entering into their consumption will be different. In very common language, the purpose of index number. Before constructing an index number, let us take an example of our own life. Before deciding something, we want to know the purpose. So before doing anything, we need some purpose. As same as it is before constructing an index number, we should decide the purpose at first. So for what we are going to use this index numbers? For what purpose we are going to use an index number? So here, a cost of living index of a working classes. So if I want to use my index number in order to find the cost of living of in working classes, the same thing, the same purpose cannot be used for farmers because the cost of living of farmers is very much different from the cost of living of a working class. So we have to know the purpose of index number first. The next one is selection of commodities. Commodities to be selected depend upon the purpose or objective of the index number of commodities should neither be too large nor too small. Moreover, commodities to be selected must be broadly representative of the group of commodities. They should also be comparable in the sense that standard or graded items should be taken. So, next, the commodities. What type of commodities we are going to use for the construction of index numbers? So, before that we have to know the purpose, why we are using these type of commodities. So there are many conditions applied in order to select a commodity. So commodity should not be too small or large. So we should not consider neither too large commodity nor too small commodity. It should be according with the type of averages or the weight concepts that we use, that let us study in the next coming topics. Next one, the commodities what we select. The commodities what we select should be represented by a group, means it should have some proof or evidence that this type of commodities exist. So there should be a representative of a group of commodities, and also they should be comparable in the sense of grading and standard. So we know about the grading and standard. Standards are like AGMARK, FSSAI, all those things are standard, ISI. But grading is nothing but A, B, C or 1, 2, 3 grades. So let us take an example, like I have taken 2 pens. First pen is grade 1 and the second pen is grade 2. So I can't take this grade 1 pen and grade 2 pen into comparison, because the grade already is telling that these two are different. So we should consider the same kind of standard should be there in the commodity, or the same grade should be there in the commodities what we select in order to compare. The selection of prices. The next step is to select the prices of these commodities for this purpose. Care should be taken to select prices from representative persons, place or journals or other sources, but they must be reliable. Prices may be quoted in money in terms, that is rupees 100 per quintal, or in quantity terms, that is 2 kg per piece something. Like, care should be taken not to mix these prices. Then the problem is to select wholesale or retail prices. This depends on the type of index number. For consumer price index, the wholesale prices are required, while for a cost of living index, retail prices are needed. But different prices should not be mixed up. So selecting a price. So like when we take a commodity, let us take an example of book again, because we shouldn't confuse. So when we take a price of a book, how we got to know that the price of the book is rupees 60? Because seeing the MRP. By seeing the MRP, we got to know the book price is rupees 60. Who gave this MRP? It is given by, or it is represented by some persons or some place or in some journals or from the other sources. Yes, it is represented by the government, right? So we have to select such type of commodities where the prices should be given by some person, places or journals, and it should be reliable too. So the prices may be quoted in terms of money. So in terms of money, like rupees 100 per quintal, or in quantity terms like rupees 10 per 2 kg, like that. And then the next problem is to select whether it is wholesale or retail prices. It depends on the type of index number. So for a consumer price index, the wholesale prices are required. So when we consider, in order to find the consumer price index, that is CPI, we go with the wholesale prices, because maximum number of consumers, what they use, they take the commodities or they buy the commodities of the wholesale prices. But the cost of living is dependent upon retail prices. Like, we don't always go buy in wholesale prices, right? We buy, maximum time we buy with retail prices. So when there is wholesale and retail prices, it is two different, so that shouldn't be mixed up. So selection of an average. Since index numbers are averages, the problem is how to select an appropriate average. There are two important averages, that are the arithmetic mean and the geometric mean. The arithmetic mean is the simpler of two, but the geometric mean is the accurate one. So however, the average prices should be reduced to price relatives, either or fixed based method or chain based method. So let us not go in detail, because some of the students will be not knowing about these methods. So there are two important averages, that is AM and GM, what we say arithmetic mean and geometric mean. So arithmetic mean, so arithmetic mean. It is a simpler of 2 means. Here we can see the example like a plus b divided by 2. That is an arithmetic mean. It is a simpler of 2. But the geometric mean is the accurate one, means it is actually the correct one, and the average prices should be reduced to the price relatives. So it should be reduced to the price relatives. When we go on constructing an index number, or when we go on using the formulas and solving this, we will get to know this fixed base method and also the chain based method. And also we have an harmonic mean, that is also a type of average, but it is used by statistics students, or what do you say, who are learning this in detail but not in economics. Next one, the selection of weights. While constructing an index number, due weightage or importance should be given to the various commodities which are more important in the consumption of consumers, should be given higher weightage than the other commodities. The weights are determined with reference to the relative amounts of income spent on the commodities by the consumer. Weights may be given in terms of value or quantity. So, while constructing an index number, the weights what we use, the importance should be given to the commodities which are highly used by the consumers, which is most consumed by the consumers. In this case, we shouldn't select the luxurious goods because maximum number of consumers are not using the luxurious goods. So we have to go with the basic commodities. And also, it depends, or it is determined, the reference to the relative amounts of income spent on commodities by the consumers. So what is the income of a consumer and what is expenditure of a consumer, means how much is spent on the commodities, should be taken into the consideration, and these weights are in terms of value or quantity. The selection of the base period. The selection of base period is the most important step in the construction of index number. It is a period against which comparisons are made. The base period should be normal and free from any unusual events such as war, famine, earthquake, all those things. So when we want to select a base period, we should have a consideration like the base period should not be too recent or should not be too old. So when we take an example of 2020, we can go with 2015 is the last limit. We can't select 2020 with 21, right? So the base period what we select should not be too recent or should not be too old, and also it shouldn't be affected by any unusual events such as war, famine, earthquake, boom, or anything like that, flood, etc. So we have to be more conscious in selection of the base period. Selection of formula. A number of formulas have been devised to construct an index number, but the selection of an appropriate formula depends upon the availability of data and purpose of the index numbers. No single formula may be used for all type of index numbers. So the selection of an appropriate formula. So when we have more number of data, we can go with the geometric mean, that is about the GM, or else we can when we have less data or it is very less in quantity of data what we find, we can go with AM. So like this we have to choose the formulas depending upon the data we have. So we have to choose an appropriate formula. So there is no single formula used. There are lots of number of formulas given by Fishes, Darvish, Bowley, Edward, Marshall, and also Kelly's. So Lastes, Pastes. So there are more number of formulas given by the the professors or the people. We can select the formula. So we'll be back with the next topic again. So stay home, stay safe. We will study with coronavirus, and thank you.